You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, let's get going.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm very excited to have a colleague, Dr. Sharon French. Dr. French, founder of vetavailability.com, brings over 2 decades of experience in veterinary dentistry at the Veterinary Emergency Clinic at the Referral Center in Toronto. A fellow of Academy of Veterinary Dentistry since 1996, Sharon graduated from OVC in 1985 and remains dedicated to her profession, continuing to work on passionately in the field. Sharon, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us all about it. Vetavailability.com. Can you tell us what is it, how it works, what's the innovation, and what is the big dream?
Okay. Well, vetavailability.com is a real-time database of clinics' availability within a geographic area. It came to be because we lived through the pandemic. I have a hard time saying no to clients. My staff hate that maybe sometimes, but I couldn't handle seeing the struggles for, veterinarians trying to find care for their patients, the number of phone calls it took, the struggle for owners trying to find care, even after the pandemic. And now, we still find there's not enough of us veterinary types or technician types or reception types to be able to service, the large number of pets that came to be during the pandemic. And, veterinary medicine is kind of a tough place to be in some ways. And while we're not in the pandemic shutdowns that we suffered through, it still takes phone call after phone call after phone call to try and find care. And my lawyer, who's kind of a tough guy, deep voice, called me on a Sunday night and when I picked up the phone, I said, hi, Paul, how are you doing? And he was like, high pitched voice. And I'm going, what's happening? You're calling me on a Sunday night and you sound funny, and he was walking with his kids and the neighbor's dog got attacked, a little white dog, and, by a Rottweiler, and everybody was traumatized and he couldn't get help anywhere. Not his dog. He was just trying to help the neighbors. And so he called me and it took me multiple phone calls to be able to say, okay, I figured this out. I promised pretty much my firstborn, but you're going to go to this hospital and they're going to assess, but they can't keep it to see whether it needed to be euthanized or not. And then they agreed to do that. So that was cool. And then they said, well, we can't keep it overnight. So then I arranged for another hospital that did overnights to hospitalize the dog. And then it went back to another facility for surgery the next day. So I thought, God, we have to be able to do better because veterinarians need to spend less hours on the phone trying to find care, and owners need to be able to find care in a timely fashion. So I thought, well, wow, what if there was a map that had everybody's kind of a status in color-coded, icons? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't you can just, locate yourself and then you'd see a map and then you'd know who to call or who not to call right away. So I looked for it and it didn't exist. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not really techie, but I know people. And so we made it. And so the site is designed to find veterinary help because people travel with their pets now as well. And then they get into trouble, sometimes the leash-free park when you're on vacay, and bad things happen and you need help and you don't know where to go. So we made it for the US and Canada. We made it in 3 languages. So it's French, English, and Spanish. And what you can do is when you're a client looking for help, you can search, you choose which category you want to look for. So if you're looking for ER or urgent care, because we have those clinics now, primary care, because primary care clinics sometimes can't take new patients, and then palliative, end-of-life care, and we're just adding exotics, courtesy of my experience at VMX and WVC. The exotics folks were going, you got to do that too. So you can select which category you're looking for. You geolocate, a map comes up with color-coded icons of clinics that are member clinics. You can click on the icon of your choice. So red is restricted, maybe not that one first. Orange is partially restricted, green is open. And it drives you to the clinic page within the website that has all the information, including wait times if they choose to fill that out, and availability. The doctors, what kind of stuff do they do? There's a URL that drives them to the clinic website. So there's a little SEO help there. If you're not taking new patients, then you come up as not taking new patients, and you can then avoid those phone calls where because owners are sometimes very upregulated, and receptionists have to take those calls, and you carry that kind of stuff. It's hard to slough off when people are directing their frustration at you. There's also a special instruction section because everybody does something a little different. So some people have a patient onboarding app. Some people will say, oh, no, you have to park here, like at where I am at the VEC. Our address is Yonge Street, but the entrance to the clinic is on a side street. So we tried to make it as useful as we can. The other thing I did was put in a how urgent is your problem page, because we know that owners are not sometimes aware or clued into what clinical signs can actually mean. And so, and that was courtesy of my kid, who was helping out at reception as a favor to her mom, and took a call from people who had said, oh, my Frenchie got spayed last week, and she was, she's not eating for a few days, and now she's breathing real funny, and my kid, who's been in veterinary medicine for a bit, said, this could be very, very, very serious. We're restricted, but we're close to you. Please come. And the owners sort of didn't get there in a timely fashion. They thought the dog was asleep in the back seat, and she was actually dead. So my kid said to me, Mommy, got to,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Karen, if I can jump in. What is the pickup like? Like, what is, I know that this is, and I'm also interested in what is the business model, and how can you sustain this long term? Is there like a fee that veterinarians pay? How does that work?
It will be. Right now, everything is for free. The clinics in the Greater Toronto area will be free forever, because that's my base, and people have supported me a long time, and that will be our proof of concept. So we're just trying to convince managers of corporate clinics that, yep, that's okay. They can go on. There won't be any cost to them. It will be free for a minimum of a year, because this is my baby, and I morally can't charge people if the site's not well loaded. So I'm trying to avoid doing the sort of pop-up advertising stuff, because I personally find that challenging or annoying. There will be a fee for veterinary clinics eventually when we get the site loaded well enough. We're keeping it in Canadian dollars, which makes the US folks really happy. And I'm trying to keep it to a minimum of one patient visit a year. For me, it's not all about the money. It is, it's about doing something that is a stupidly simple idea, but might help all of us make less phone calls, and might avoid some of those really angry phone calls that people have to deal with, and just expedite care for patients and for veterinarians as well. So less time on the phone maybe you can do an extra vaccine appointment, or go home on time. Maybe. How about that? We're not seeing those kinds of, and people are burning out. So yes, there is a graduated fee schedule for, because there will be more traffic for ER specialty clinics. So they are, will pay a little bit more, and, down to primary care clinics. I do have a contract with Ethos Specialty and ER clinics that they are permitted to allow their clinics on, which was kind of exciting. It's just hard to get veterinarians. Well, I'm trying to get the word out, and then it's encourage veterinarians to actually get on the site. I have had zero, in all the people I've spoken to, zero negative comments, only 100% positive, comments, with people saying, wow, this could really help. This is a great idea. We want to do some bloggy things. And one of the other things that we're starting to do to really show veterinarians in a different light, because people think we're not charging the clients, because people are so upregulated and worried about the cost of veterinary medicine as it is. That's why we're charging the clinics, and trying to keep it to the whole thing.
That makes total sense. And Sharon, I've got a question for you. It's kind of from my experience, and I really want to know how you're thinking about this. So one of my first businesses that I started was a computer store on a main street in a small rural town in Nova Scotia. And one of the things that I learned there was independent businesses that all had their own bosses are really hard to kind of corral together, really hard to unify on a joint mission, no matter how important it is. this seems like one of the biggest challenges for you. Like, so, a corporate group might sign up for you, and then all of a sudden they've got all kinds of spots on the map, but then somebody else might see that as a competitive advantage for them. I get the mission. It makes sense. The industry needs this. The pet owners need this. But how are you going to tackle that problem?
Well, I think that someone said to me from a corporation, "Oh, if our clinics aren't on there and the public knows about it, and we're going to look bad." I went, "Yeah, you might. Yeah, you might." So we're going to actually crowdsource a little bit because it will help people. And we're just trying to get a little bit of the veterinarians, and the independent clinics are the ones who are on, the people who have the ability to, be able to decide and self-direct a little bit and see, are the people who are starting to come on. So, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the platform itself? So how, because I assume is it driven from the schedule? Is it the subjective? Is there like wait times? Just because we're on the podcast, just help us visualize it. When the clinics are in tune with it, is that something they need to update on a daily basis? How does the tech work behind it?
It is up, and some of the corporate types have said to me, "Well, how are you going to police it?" And I'm like, "Well, it behooves us to keep it up to date so that the public is not angry and then lashing out on social media that, it wasn't." So, primary care clinics might update, if they don't have staff for a weekend, they won't be updating as frequently, but it is on the dashboard. So the clinic dashboard, it's a click of the mouse to change your status, which then reflects immediately on the map. So as an ER, if you have no cage space in the clinic or no IV pumps, somebody makes the decision that receptionists would have to actually relay by phone, which is what we're doing now, to a click of the mouse, which basically says, okay, we're now restricted. So then that clinic would then show up as red on the map, or if they're completely shut, or orange as maybe there's some hope. And then, so reception or floor manager or whoever is normally in charge of directing what receptionists say to people on the phone now becomes a click of the mouse.
That makes sense. And your story about, looking for the veterinarian who is available right now, we are seeing all across the industry a little bit of a downslide post-COVID. It looks like COVID was a huge up. And is that still, like, I just remember, again, this is maybe a little more sort of personal experience, but I think I worked in about 12 or 15 emergency hospitals in Toronto. There's a lot of them. So is that still the case? Is that the shortage because it's such a big city? We're still short on availability and wait times are horrendous. Is that what's happening?
I think it's predominantly still happening because the veterinary industry is in trouble in terms of our mental health, our burnout rate. A veterinarian I know committed suicide this week. We'd have a high suicide rate in our profession, and, and people are burning out. And so people can't work the way, when I graduated, right, we didn't know anything about work-life balance, but, we're trying to allow people work-life balance, and it takes a lot of people to run a 24-hour clinic. And so everybody's struggling trying to find staff. Technicians burn out, receptionists even burn out. We look at the statistics. So, so yes, while things have settled down that way, and some people are now looking for more business, it's sometimes the staffing is still a big problem.
Well, that may be their way to find new business, to get on your platform and show we're available. So that's exactly.
Exactly. So if you want the business, it might help. And if you don't want the business, it might help.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, what is the big dream? What does that look like in 5 years when this is exactly where you want it to be? And it's developed into this big, what is it?
Well, I mean, I would just like to see us function better. We used to do the Google Doc. In some communities, they would do Google Docs, but that's not public facing. And so my dream is that we have at least 50% of clinics on in any given area, and that we can do some education things for the public, and we can present a face to the public that is maybe better than what we're now thought of. So many people think of us, we're just all about the money. So one of the things we're going to do is we have a YouTube channel. We're starting to collect video evidence that veterinarians are just not about the money. We have a video of a dog that aspirated a ball, and the tech had the presence of mind to film what was happening, and the ER vet tweezes the ball out because the dog was going to die, was going to suffocate right in front of us. And it was a doodle. And he takes a big breath and he wags his tail and everybody's cheering. And I thought the public needs to see the joy that we have in the work that we do in that. So we're starting a series called Great Saves. So member clinics, if they do something, then we get permission from the owners to be able to film it or to, put it up on the YouTube channel, then we'll do that, because I would love people to have a different idea about what veterinarians really are about, because they think various things, but some of them are not great.
It's so obvious that you've got so much passion for the project, and it's growing out of a need that you yourself had. Where are you guys at in your journey? So, and what can we do to help? Are you here today to say, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a veterinary clinic, go to our website and sign up? Like, what can we do?
Absolutely. And you know what? Because my name's on the thing, I want it to work well. So I welcome any feedback. I'm very accessible, and if something's not right, I'll fix it. I think I probably am going to have to do a demo model just to make it. I thought it was pretty easy, plug and play, to join up onto the website, but we are slowly, but it's very slow, our progress. Part of it is because I need to probably get out and market better. I need to have a better strategy for marketing. So I'm getting some help with that, because it's a great idea and I think it will help. And I'd really like people to know about it, and so that they can see it and try it. And then hopefully some of the other corporations will allow their folks to come on.
Well, this podcast should help with that. I just came up to mind when you were talking about the cost, and veterinarian is all about the money. I'm in Florida. I came last night. I had a weird chest feeling, went to local hospital, and we complained about Canadian healthcare. Admitted, blood work, CT scan of the chest, 3 hours in there. Beautiful, awesome service, $19,000 US in like 3 hours. So I don't think that vet are all about the money. So
no,
that's just
no. But people do sometimes have that, and the costs. Like, we do a lot of trauma patients where I work, and it's one of my frustrations and my joys. We like making things better. We're fixers. I'm a fixer, and some of those bills are really high. Now, insurance is great, and we try and encourage people to get insurance because that does help. But, sometimes people are just unhappy about the cost, but the cost of everything, has gone up. But I would like people to see us generally as a profession a little bit different than we are sometimes perceived.
Sharon, another quick question for you. Have you preloaded the 30,000 clinics that are in North America into the site for people to claim, so that at least there's a database that people can find?
I have not done that because I was suggested to me that I do that, and then they would just be blanked out and there would be no information for them. Only the icons of member clinics would be visible or highlighted, colored, and the others would be, and then no clinic pages. And we could do that, and maybe that's a strategy. But I would, maybe I'm a bit of a Pollyanna. I'm old to be a Pollyanna, but and naive. But I was hoping that because everybody says it's such a good idea, that people would join me in this journey of trying to make things a bit better.
the hope of every entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Well, we've run out of time, like we do every single week, and I've got at least 15 more questions that I wanted to ask you, but I guess we'll have to have you back as you're going to go down the road. The idea is great, and your passion for it's admirable. So keep up the good work. We like to wrap up every week the same way. So we've got a couple questions for you. First is a YouTube video, a TED Talk, a book, something that you read along the way that's allowed you to have as much passion as you do for the profession.
Well, I think now I'm having a blank. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because I try to be highly effective, was something I read early on, and was, I think, important in my career and my development as a human being.
Awesome. And the second question we always ask: is there an entrepreneur or innovator in the industry that you think would be good to invite to this?
I met Bonnie Bragdon, who is the president of the Independent Practice Owners Association, and she does a bunch of. She's a really interesting woman, and she's involved in doing a lot of things. But I was I was impressed by her energy and her passion for veterinary medicine and for independent practice and, self-direction. So I think she'd be great to talk to.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.